Good morning. It's Ryan with West Penn Financial again, back to go over a program of how to get your buyer to close with $1,000 out of their pocket. That's right. Only $1,000 is required if you and I, real estate agent and loan officer, work together and structure the buyer's loan properly to get them in with $1,000 out of pocket. So usually for every program out there that you'll hear about for a mortgage, you need a specific down payment, whether it's 3.5% for FHA, 3% first time conventional, 5%, 20%. There's always a specific down payment. But for this program, because it is specifically through PHFA, the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, they allow for a unique program which you only need $1,000. So let's first talk about how a buyer qualifies for this program. First off, this particular example, we need an FHA loan. FHA loan, or VA or USDA, but again, we're going to strictly stock FHA. So if you only want conventional buyers, shut this off right now. It's not for you. I need an FHA loan. And again, FHA loans are better for clients that don't have great credit scores. So if you have a client that doesn't have the best credit score, we don't need to make them wait to get their credit score up. We have good mortgage programs for them. Or if you have a buyer that can qualify, they got a good job, they can qualify, everything looks good, they just don't have the savings. This program is excellent for them. So first things first, they have to be a first-time home buyer. Cannot own a home in the last 3 years. For Allegheny County, the max purchase price for this program is $506,300. Then it also has an income limit. This is the biggest hurdle to get over for qualification. An income limit means you cannot make over this amount of money, and it is a household income limit. It's not a mortgage qualifying income limit. So anyone that's going to live in the house over the age of 18, their income goes into the calculation. For 1 to 2 homeowners or household members in Allegheny County is $107,300 annually. That's for 1 to 2 people. If you have 3 or more people, so if there's some children, if you have other folks living in the home with you, the total income is $123,300. So again, FHA buyer, first-time homeowner, under those income limits, we're rocking and rolling on this program. So how it works, how it's going to make sense, how we're going to get the buyers, your buyers, our buyers into a home with only $1,000. First things first, we're going to get pre-approved through me for our FHA first-time home buyer program, the K-Fit program with PHFA. Next, this is where we need you to come in. As the real estate agent, we need you to structure their offer properly. And we're going to get into the numbers and the loan estimate next, but we're going to need you to put in an FHA offer. Remember, this is a buyer that doesn't have funds laying around. We got $1,000 to work with. So we're going to need the seller to pay the buyer broker commission, and we're going to need to ask for about 4% seller assistance. And it's possible. It's not 2021. It is possible. We see it all the time. How it's going to work, you're going to get them 4% seller assistance. Then us and West Penn Financial, we're going to get the buyer 5% closing cost assistance. This is an FHA state bond program that only needs $1,000 to close. You do not need 3.5% down or 3% down or 5% down, $1,000. So how it goes, they get 4% that you guys got them for seller assistance. They get 5% closing a cost assistance from me. That is 9% assistance that we just got a new buyer to get them into their first home. And then just a note, the closing cost assistance from PHFA, from the state, it is a second mortgage through PHFA, which is a 10-year forgivable mortgage with no interest. So whatever amount the buyer is borrowing, remember 5% of the purchase price. So for a $300,000 purchase price, they'd be getting $15,000 of closing cost assistance through the state. So that $15,000, 10% of that drops off every year. If you live in the home for 10 years, nothing is paid back. If you sell the home within 10 years, that portion is paid back at closing with no interest. Again, we are trying to get home buyers into homes that just don't have that down payment sitting around, but they qualify in every other manner. So I always say the numbers don't lie. So let's hop into the loan estimate so I can show you how this looks for a buyer. Again, loan estimate, most important document you can see for your buyer. If you're not used to seeing this form, please go back. I did a video the other day explaining the loan estimate line by line. But as we can see, we'll go on the right-hand side. This is an FHA loan, 30-year purchase, fixed rate. No, the interest rate isn't locked in. So for this example, we're doing $300,000. $300,000 purchase. It is an FHA loan. So technically, the buyer is putting 3.5% down. That's what you'll see in the loan amount. But we're going to explain how this program allows the closing cost assistance to go into the down payment. And that's why it's very, very, very unique. So $300,000 is what we're working with. So your seller assistance is based off $300,000. Your closing cost assistance is based off of $300,000. We're going to get $12,000 seller assistance, or maybe even a little bit less from the seller. And then we're going to get $15,000 from the state. And we'll show you how this works. So for this estimate, we have an interest rate of 6.375. If you ever need an APR on a loan estimate, you switch to page 3. There's the APR, 7.167 right there. So interest rate of 6.375 on this FHA loan. Pretty good rate to get the closing cost assistance. You'll go down through the payment. We'll show you the full payment for this $300,000 estimate. Monthly payment estimated $2,420. And as you can see at the bottom, yes, there's closing costs of $21,953. But because how we have structured this loan with the seller assistance and the closing cost assistance, they're going to pay $1,000 at closing. If your buyer can get you $1,000 in hand money, that's their funds, we can close on this loan. And page 2 has all the normal closing costs you will see in the loan. There is an origination fee. There's the appraisal fee, the credit report fee. There's the mortgage insurance for the FHA. You have all your title fees here. You have your escrow. You have prepaids, homeowners insurance, transfer taxes. So this isn't baloney. This is a full estimate showing a buyer how you can get into the home. So how it works, because you need $1,000, this buyer actually got a little bit of a break with the seller assistance. So total closing, down payment, all of this is broken down here in the bottom. But as you can see, what the buyer is getting back. The buyer is getting $15,000 from the state in the closing cost assistance. $300,000, 5%, $15,000. I originally told you get 4% seller assistance. That would have been $12,000. Well, the cost came in a little bit less. We actually only needed $11,387 for seller assistance. But for this example right here, the buyer on a $300,000 purchase, first-time home buyer, will close with $1,000 out of pocket. It's all because you and I working together, structuring the loan, the best loan for this buyer, because they either didn't have the best credit score or they didn't have the best savings, but they did have $1,000. So if you have a specific buyer that this kind of meets their needs, will this be the best program for every buyer? No. If a buyer has a ton of assets, a great credit score, they're not a first-time home buyer, it's not the best program for them. But if you have any first-time home buyers out there that think that they need to spend this whopping amount of money to get into a home, it's not necessarily true if the loan is structured properly through the real estate agent and the loan officer. So give me a shout. I appreciate it, and have a great day.